Greetings, Missouri Mid-South Conference friends. I bring you greetings in this new year, this new decade, and as I am recording this on Monday, it is Epiphany. So I offer greetings and blessings to you in this new life of God's presence with us. Epiphany has always been a very interesting and exciting time, remembering the story of the Magi, the wise people who in the darkness followed the star to the place of Jesus, the baby Jesus. I have struggled in the past few years with Epiphany and the theme and the spiritual components of light. And sometimes I think that we have used this binary meaning of light equals good and God and darkness is evil. And I'm aware that when we do that, we are doing damage and harm to our persons of color siblings in our human family, because it sends the message to those who are persons of color that perhaps somehow they are evil or they are bad or they are not of God, and I don't want to perpetuate that. And so I remember in seminary, my New Testament professor, Dr. Linda McInnes-Bridges, in our Greek class, the only Greek word I remember is blepo. And she used it to describe Epiphany. Blepo means literally to see. But in the Gospels and in Paul's epistles, blepo is also used to talk about or to refer to the sight or to be aware of a spiritual vision. And what Dr. Bridges would say to us is that blepo is that aha moment where you become aware of something that perhaps you weren't aware of before in a way that alters and changes and transforms your life. And so as I began to think about my own personal usage of referring to light and God's light and God's love, and also understanding that darkness, there is beauty and goodness and divine presence in the womb of our being, in the caves of Jesus' death and resurrection. New life comes in those places. And so I share that with you as a kind of a precursor to something new that we are going to do together in this Epiphany season as a time to reflect and to intentionally, all together, have a time of awareness in the language we use, in how we approach life and ourselves and each other, in particular in our local church, in our associations, and in the Missouri Mid-South Conference of the United Church of Christ. So a few months ago, I was preparing for traveling to Alabama with my colleagues who are conference ministers and the executive officers of the National Church of the United Church of Christ, as we were going to be doing a pilgrimage and do real deep reflection on race. And so I began to read the book White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. And there's a moment in the introduction that for me was that epiphany moment. And I want to share it, and so I need my vision, my glasses, in order to see. On page 5 of the introduction, Dr. DiAngelo says, "I believe that white progressives cause the most daily damage to people of color." holy moly. When I read that, it was this moment of, wait a second. Wait. Progressives are the ones who are open-minded and who are seeking justice and equity. And a part of what she says is that racism is a system. Race is a system, and when white progressives don't understand our own race and how we enable and perpetuate white supremacy and racism itself, we are doing daily damage to people of color. So I want to read one more paragraph from this page, because for me it sets the introduction to our book study together every Thursday at 3 p.m. She says, quote, "Racism has been among the most complex social dilemmas since the founding of this country. While there is no biological race as we understand it, race as a social construct has profound significance and shapes every aspect of our lives. Race will influence whether we will survive our birth, where we are most likely to live, which schools we will attend, who our friends and partners will be, what careers we will have, how much money we will earn, how healthy we will be, and even how long we can expect to live. This book does not attempt to provide the solution to racism, nor does it attempt to prove that racism exists. I start from that premise. My goal is to make visible how one aspect of white sensibility continues to hold racism in place: white fragility. I will explain the phenomenon of white fragility, how we develop it, how it protects racial inequality, and what we might do about it." End quote. When I read that, I realized what I had just experienced and expressed in reading the sentence that white progressives do more daily damage to people of color, and my response of, oh, that is white fragility. Oh, no. And I knew, as I read the remainder of the book, that we, as the Missouri Mid-South Conference, need to read this book, and that it needs to come from me. It doesn't need to come from the pastors of our local churches, although they may be doing that or already have done that in their local churches. It doesn't need to come from other places. It doesn't need to come from the Conference Council or the Justice and Witness Committee. It needs to come from me as your conference minister. Because if we cannot have this conversation, if we who identify as white do not do our own hard work of wrestling with the thoughts and the history and the reality of now and how we whites do perpetuate racism, then there is no way that we are going to be able to break down and dismantle racism within ourselves, within our churches, within our committees on ministry, within our conference or denomination. It starts with this book study. I want to give a few practical words to you about the book study. Number one, if you are a layperson, if you are a member of a church, never been to seminary, don't want to go to seminary, this book study is for you. I am preparing all of our reflections and conversations together for you. It is not going to be highly academic. It is not going to be all ministers and you feel left out. I am aiming everything for those of you who are lay members. Number 2, we will be doing this study together every Thursday at 3 p.m. Right below this video, you will see the Zoom conference call information. Don't freak out if you barely know how to open your email or you barely know how to open this video. If you are watching this video, you have enough common sense to click a link and either call in, which is completely fine, or to click the link and have the video shown. Number 3. There is a study guide that as I was doing my own preparation over the holiday break, I came across this study guide co-written by the author of the book herself with someone else. It's really good, and I am also including that in this e-courier, this week's e-courier, so that you can read that and you will know exactly what we are going to do together. Each week, the book study is going to last for 1 hour. It will begin with a prayer, and then I will do a few opening words, and then I will offer some questions for you to reflect on. And I will guide the conversation so that those who are extroverts who think and process by talking are not the only ones who are thinking and processing by talking, and those who are introverts who have wonderful wisdom to share and offer have the opportunity to share in that space as well. Number 4, if you are a minister, in the Eastern Association specifically, I know that their Committee on Ministry has approved that this book study will count as your requirement for racial and justice equity training. And so we will be taking, I will be taking attendance just for that. If you are from the Western Association or the St. Louis Association, I would encourage you to talk to your particular committees on ministry, or maybe I would encourage the committees on ministry to have this conversation sooner rather than later, and then you can be included. I will be taking attendance for everybody just in case the other COMs allow this. That will be all that I do. I'm not the teacher here. I'm not going to be grading anything. I'm not going to be requiring anything of the ministers or the lay members. I'm just taking attendance so that I can give that to the Eastern Association Committee on Ministry. Number 5, a part of what we will do is to, as we begin, is to begin with a covenant with one another, just like in our sacred stories, where covenant reminds us of our promise to ourselves, to each other, and to God. We will do that with this book study, which will, at times, it will be uncomfortable, it will be painful. There will be moments where we say, ouch, I'm sorry, and I love you. And that will be a part of our covenant. Number 6, I think. If you are not able to read the assigned readings each week, please come anyways. If you don't want to participate, but you want to simply listen, please come anyways. Please come. If you can't come to the weekly book studies, because of work or other engagements, please read White Fragility. It is the only way, that sounds very definitive, it is one of the ways that we as white Christians in the Missouri Mid-South Conference have the opportunity to wrestle with our stuff and to say, ouch, and to say, I'm sorry, and to say, I love you, and we can do better. This is the way that we dismantle racism. Finally, number 7, to the persons of color, siblings of the Missouri Mid-South Conference, I welcome you to come. We need you to come. If you say, I don't want to be the token person of color, you need to do your work, blessings to you. And I invite you to do your own reading that challenges, engages, and transforms you in this spiritual journey of racial justice and equity. If you say, my voice is important and needs to be here, know that I will make sure that you are not the token anything, and that your voice is very important in what we do, in how we have conversation, and how we change and dismantle racism. This is a new day, a new year, a new decade, and the blepo of God's love is that we have the opportunity to see, to become aware of where we have hurt and harmed others simply in our being, and where we can do better. This is the journey that we have, and I am so excited. So, may God who creates us continue to create new life in our darkness and in our illuminating light. May the Christ who teaches us to love beyond our imagination hold us together as lay people and ministers and members in discernment and churches and associations and conference and the body of Christ in the expression of the United Church of Christ. And may the Holy Spirit that breaks us open give us blepo to see and be aware of God's beloved community among us, this day and forevermore. Amen.